that has been Barcelona, and I tried to bring on the alarm some time back about how bad they have looked this season. And I understand that there was lots of positivity drawing from last season, how they won the league and they conceded so less. But this season, it's been them either conceding early goals, it's been them producing some work results, like yesterday against Villarreal. When you think about the points they've dropped this season, they've dropped to teams like Getafe, to teams like Mallorca.
That actually has been their Achilles heel, yeah?
Yes. That, conceding early goals, even the Champions League, they lost to Royal Antwerp, they lost to Shakhtar Donetsk. But also in the previous week, they've just shipped in 9 goals in the past 4 days or 3 days. They lost the Copa del Rey to Athletic Bilbao, 4-2, which is a big one because Xavi had talked about, I'll win one title. And then you get dropped out of the Copa del Rey. You already lost the Spanish Supercopa to Real Madrid in devastating fashion, 4-1. It's been terrible for Xavi, and I understand why he's taking a leave right now. There's a lot he said about him not being appreciated, but it's the right step. It was getting bad.
But to be honest, and I saw a list, spending since Xavi's arrival, and Barca have spent the most, 256 million euros. Madrid, of course, with 209. La Real with 73. Atleti with 69. So on paper, yes, you'd been backed. But then I turned around yesterday and I did a simple thing, which was I opened the list of the players that played yesterday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I asked myself, yes, he may have gotten players, but in my life growing up, Barca didn't sign has-beens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This team has too many has-beens.
And you should start with Christensen on that list.
No.
Gundogan.
Mm-hmm.
Gundo and Romeo. Guys, Romeo was playing at Southampton. Was it Southampton?
Yes.
Come on. Since when did Barcelona sign players from Southampton? Since when? Since which year? How? When? How?
There was lots of explanations I was being given because I was in the ship with yourself.
Whichever way you
try and
paint
construct,
it.
yeah.
No.
I think it's an issue of extremes. You have those types of players you have mentioned. Again, now they are depending more on the young players. The 16-year-olds, the Xavi, the Pedri.
And Yamal.
Very, very young players who are playing too many games. Already Gavi has an injury.
They're all getting injured because of the many
and
games.
he will come back different. He won't be the same player. And he's very young to get those types of injuries. So it's extremes. They don't have players who are just between 20, 23, or their peak, 23, 26. Thereabout.
Yeah,
because you're talking about Gavi's been injured, Pedri's been injured, Balde's season is over, they are having to go through surgery. There's another one.
And then now they're depending on Yamal to get the
goal. They're also making play far too many games.
He's playing too many games.
Because I looked at that list and I told myself, I was like, okay, I see the money. But then I said, Lewandowski, let's be honest.
He's been terrible.
Barca had no business signing him in the first place.
Yeah.
Barca shouldn't be signing a 35-year-old to be the lead of their line. It shouldn't. In 2020, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I looked at the money and I told myself, have they really given him what he needs? Is that team good enough?
No.
I don't think so. And I feel like...
But how would you argue it when you look at last season and say...
Last season was an oddity.
Last season they were lucky.
I thought so. I thought it was an oddity. I didn't think Barca would win. I didn't think anyone thought they would win.
Yeah.
But then they just went on a run and they just won. But when I look at the squad as presently constructed, I look at the kid who played at left back yesterday, kid called Fort. How old is he? He's a baby. I look at Peña in goal. Who's that? I look, like you said, Christiansen. Who is that? I look at Romeo. Who is that? I look at Gundo. No offense, but Gundo a whole season. There's a reason why Pep would keep him until March and then play him for in a small. Yes. And then I look at Yamal, baby, Yao Felix. Jumped all over the place.
To impress,
and then Lewandowski, grandfather.
Cancelo
is on the bench, which again, I was like, why did Cancelo be on the bench and yet Fort starts?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I don't know what the Chep's point, I think, makes it's two extremes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they are good enough. And I know the counter argument might be, but are Real Madrid good enough?
They're decimated.
But then again, Real Madrid signed the best young midfielder.
They did.
Who has then stepped up 5 times.
Yeah, but for Real Madrid, you lose your goalkeeper, your starting goalkeeper, and you have to have Kepa, who is also not good, and you have to make another change.
Yes.
And then you think about Alaba, you think about Militao.
Alaba is...
at some point, we are only talking about Rudiger being the only starting centre-back at Real Madrid. And they've just found a way. Even with Cruz and Modric running on fumes, they're still there and 10 points ahead of Barcelona.
But you know the beauty of Real Madrid? Those old men can run on fumes, but then they have these kids they put in the second half.
Yeah.
You know?
Tchouaméni and Camavinga and Valverde.
Yes, exactly. So you old men manage this game a bit, just like they did in that Champions League game.
Yeah.
You manage this game a bit, and then now put the young kids. Now those young kids come and run like mad.
Yeah.
Now you look at Barca. Once you move out of the old men, Gundo, Romeu, and Lewandowski, who's underneath?
Yeah, they ain't much. I think the only creditable one would be Frank de Jong.
And then of course,
Yeah,
you've got the Don, man.
Ancelotti.
Yeah,
man.
experience.
He knows how to
Dawn.
manage the game.
Experience.
You've got the Don.
Even the formation he comes up against the teams this season. It's
Hey,
been
you've got
crazy.
the Don, man.
How he's been able to use both Vini and Rodrigo.
And yesterday
Yeah.
without Bellingham too.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way Madrid play.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst Madrid since Mourinho had it in terms of playing. Because again, guys, I grew up at an era where Madrid was supposed to be Galactico.
Figo.
Raúl, Morientes, Guti. You know, move the ball pretty, easy on the eye.
Yeah.
This Madrid is not easy on the eye.
No, it's
Stuttering.
not.
But for some reason, the Don gets results every day.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
he just gets results.
Yeah, I know people had their own discussion around Real Madrid winning last weekend because they thought they were not legit goals. VAR was favoring Real Madrid, but the true impression of Real Madrid just coming up in those moments was yesterday when they played against Las Palmas, because in the first half they didn't look like themselves. When Bellingham was suspended for that game, they didn't look like themselves, and then they trail early on and he brings in Tchouaméni and he scores the goal 84th minute. And they go ahead to
Good
make
to
a
have
comeback.
€100 million player to bring on, though.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. Guys, P Square, come, I pick your thoughts on what Scaloni said. Because I think he said what I have been trying to say, just that he's more eloquent. He knows exactly what to say, and he had his thoughts aligned.